There is a second QR code and link up on the screen. This is the evaluation. This is where we are very, very wholeheartedly asking you for your feedback. We do all of this for you, and we want to make sure it is what you want it to be. So please, please, please tell us what worked, what didn't, what you'd like to see in the future. We truly want to make sure that these info sessions are everything that you want them to be. All right, so what we are going to do now is shift into the Q&A portion. The way that this is going to work is that Vicki has been gathering your questions from the chat box. You can continue to ask them there. And what she's going to do is unmute herself, ask the questions. We're going to work through them together. And whenever we run out, we will run out. So Vicki, what is our very first question?
Yeah, so the first question is actually going to be a little bit of a demo as well as a question regarding the math science GPA. So we're going to do a quick demo of that calculator and how to use it. And then with that, we also have a question related to that about if a student takes both chemistry and physics, but only one is required, would the better of the two grades be counted?
Oh, these are really, really great questions. Okay, so let's get into it. The first thing I think I want to do is pull us back over to the Math and Science GPA page on the website. So remember, you can just come into that landing page and we've got a whole page about that Math Science GPA. And I want to take, so the question that I want to tackle first is the one where a student asks, if my program requires me to take chemistry, or if the minimum required courses for my top choice major are chemistry or physics, will they both still be calculated into the math science GPA? And the answer is yes. Your math science GPA is going to take any course from this list that you've completed. So even if you are meeting the minimum requirement with a passing grade in physics, we will still be calculating chemistry if it's required for the major. So always come back to this list of courses to make sure you know exactly what's being counted in there. Moving over to the calculator, we do want to do a quick demo just because we saw a question mentioning that you can't select courses. And I should point out that that is intentional. So when you get to this, what you're actually going to have to do is download it to your computer. The reason why is one of our engineering faculty members created this calculator in VBA. So you're going to have to use it in the Excel tool and do something called enable macro. So I'm going to show you how to do that now so you can see how you would select your courses. So I'm going to go ahead and download it, and I am going to open it up on my desktop. We're going to give it a second to load. I'll bring it over here so you all can see it. All right, so you can see up at the top, it tells me that it's in a protected view. I'm going to go ahead and click Enable Editing. And then I'm going to get another warning telling me that macros have been disabled. So I need to hit this Enable Content button. This is why you have to use it on your desktop and you can't use it in Google Sheets. Once you have done those things, you are free to select your courses from the list. I tested this like 9 times before we got in here and it worked. I think the screen share just makes my computer a little bit slower. You can also type them in. So I'm going to type chem. You can see that it populated 4 credit hours, and I'm going to type in a grade. Still can't click while I'm screen sharing, but I promise you can once you download. Calculus, I'm going to type in a grade. I'm going to throw a class in here that not every major takes, maybe OChem, and put a bad grade in there so you can kind of see how something like that would impact the other calculations. So now you can see when I hit update GPA, we've got slightly different GPAs for the majors that do require organic chemistry. So this calculator really is the most effective way for you to figure out your own math and science GPA. You think that covered it, Vicki? What's next?
I think so. Since we're talking about GPA, I'm going to go ahead and hit this one as well. If you are only 0.1 below the required GPA, do you still have a chance to get in? And I think that that's going to go back to part of that holistic review depending on your major.
Yeah, this is also a really excellent question. So as a reminder, when you go back to the criteria page, every major in the far right column will indicate whether or not they do a holistic review, either yes or no. So a major that is a no is chemical engineering. So if you need a 3.0 for chemical engineering and you have a 2.9999999 indefinitely, I'm sorry to say that you will be denied to that major. They do not admit anyone below that criteria. However, for our majors that do allow a holistic review, that is why we gather that additional information from you in our CEAS transition applicant scan, so that if you do fall right below the criteria, we can ask why you want to be in that major, what experiences you've had on campus that would make you a good fit, and what type of involvement you've had at the university, in the community, whatever the programs are looking for, to say, even though you fell right below our criteria, we know you can be successful here.
Great. So now we've got some questions about ways and, first, second choices when you should be changing your major. So one of the first questions is, if you're considering changing, but you're not 100% sure, do you still go ahead and do an application? Would you be able to deny that later if you are accepted and decide you don't want to change anymore?
I love this. So if you are currently not sure, and you're still not sure as we get closer to November 1st, but you don't want to lose the opportunity, please submit an application. When we send you your acceptance letter, there's going to be a link to something called a confirmation form. So nothing is official until you submit that confirmation form and tell us, tell the university that you want to move forward in the major that you are admitted to. So if you do apply, you're accepted, you've changed your mind, you will just not fill out that form. We'll rescind. It sounds so scary, but it's not. You don't want it. We'll rescind your offer, and then we'll all just move forward as we were.
Great. And something a little bit more specific to just our FEP students, does it hurt if you apply to your selected major later on, maybe like in the third semester, as opposed to right after that first semester?
Okay. So, like, the short answer is no, absolutely not. Majors are not going to say, well, they waited this long, or maybe they didn't want us, like they were too unsure. There's not going to be anything like that. When you submit the application, regardless of what semester it is in, you have a fair chance of being admitted to that program. Now, I want to put like a little asterisk on this, basically because of math, like calculations. So if you finish out your first semester and you have a 3.8 GPA, you're eligible to all of our programs, but for some reason or another, you decide to hang back. And then in your second semester, life happens, you don't do well, and your GPAs fall. What we realize is every semester you wait to apply, there are more opportunities for more classes and more chances that life might happen. So we really recommend, as soon as you are eligible, applying to a program so that you have the best chance just based on GPA, not based on kind of our decision making. We don't put any value on when you decide to apply.
Great. And we've kind of got a couple of trailer questions coming up with this as well. So if you apply for a semester and you don't get in because you don't meet the requirements in terms of either classes or GPA, and you try again for that next semester, will that first attempt hurt you in any way when you reapply?
Absolutely not. And quite frankly, it's not a blind process by any means, but I think it's almost safe to say that, like, folks who are reviewing your applications have no idea how many times that you've attempted to apply. When we are looking at your applications, we are only looking for the criteria that are there. Do they have the application considerations? Do they pass the classes? Did they meet the overall GPA? Did they meet the math science GPA? So we will never hold it against you that you got a no decision last semester. If you're meeting the criteria, we want you here when you're ready for us.
Great. And with that, what classes do you have to actually have completed at time of application?
Oh, that's a really good one. So for that, I'll pull us back over to the website, to those criteria pages, because this is actually going to be different for every single major. It is true for FEP, change of major, change of college. The minimum courses are the same across populations, but we're going to go ahead and look at the change of college criteria as our example. So if we scroll down, let's say I am destined to be a civil engineer, which, like, secretly, I think I might have been. I wish someone would have told me. If I want to be a civil engineer, I come and I look at the minimum required courses for that program, and I can see that they require a passing grade in Calculus 1, and then either a passing grade in Gen Chem 1 or College Physics 1. So whatever major you're interested in, just come back to this sheet. It's pretty consistent, but we do have some majors that are looking for an algebra-based physics class, or even some majors that accept pre-calculus, first calculus one. So please look for the specific majors that you are applying to.
So does that mean I have to already have my grades when I apply by November 1, or can I be enrolled in those classes and get my grades later when you're going to be reviewing?
Yeah, I love that question. So remember, our message is always that you can apply while the courses are in progress. So going back to civil engineering, this semester, if I am enrolled in calculus and physics 1, I'm eligible to submit an application by November 1st. CAS is going to hold my application until my grades in these courses come out. So at the end of this semester, I will have successfully passed them. I will be meeting the requirements so I can be accepted to start in that major in January.
Great. And with that, so where do I find the form to apply?
Really good question. I know I keep saying it, but it's because we made sure that everything you needed branches off of this main page. So again, I'm going to come back down to this. We call it an accordion. I think it's a cute name. I'm going to find what type of student I am. So if I am a freshman engineering program student, my criteria button is here, and so is my application button. So I can click application. It will take me to this form. And remember, this is the form that takes 2 to 3 minutes to complete and must be submitted by the application deadline.
So next part is, let's say I'm already in civil, but I think that maybe I really want chemical. But civil is still my second choice. So if I don't get into chemical, I don't plan on changing my major. Do I need to relist the major that I'm currently in if I either don't get into or decide not to accept my first choice major and decide to change?
No way. You don't have to apply to the major that you're in because you already have the spot. We don't need to consider you for it. They're not going to take it away because you thought you might have wanted a different major. If you're not accepted to the major that you apply to, it's our assumption that you are staying right where you were before. So I think our example was if I'm a chemical and I want to go to civil, sorry, I lost my train of thought. Did I fully answer the question there?
I think so, yeah.
Sorry.
And then can we also kind of revisit a little bit more the 24-hour credit hour requirement and what that really looks like for me? You know, I know that I have to have my classes, but what about those 24 credit hours as well?
Yeah, really great question. So this applies very specifically, remember, to our change of college students. So these are students who are not currently in the College of Engineering and Applied Science, exploratory, CCM, biology, Claremont, Blue Ash, who want to become engineers. When we open up the change of college criteria, that's where we see that application consideration. I must have 24 UC credit hours completed once I'm accepted to the major. So let's say this semester you are enrolled in chemistry, chem lab, calculus, and ENED. How many credit hours is that, Vicki? 5, 9, 12. So you are in 12 credit hours, which means that you are halfway to that 24 UC credit hour requirement. So if you're in 12 credit hours this semester, you're not yet eligible to apply. You'll be taking at least 12 credit hours next semester, and that's when you should submit your application. We do expect that you pass them, right? So these are completed credit hours. So if you are currently enrolled for your 13 to 24 credit hours and you withdraw from a course, that will take you below that credit hour. So you do actually have to complete them by the time we review your application.
Great. So let's say maybe I don't do so well in one of those classes. So unrelated maybe to the 24-hour credit hour rule, 24 credit hour rule. If I am retaking a class that I'm just trying to improve the grade in for admission, which grade is being used? And do I need to go through any sort of formal grade replacement process? And how do I tell you about that?
Yeah, so this one is actually like pretty complicated, so bear with me. I'm going to start with your overall GPA. So this is a number that is in Catalyst. We literally just look at your Catalyst account after grades come out to see what your GPA is. So what that means is if you took chemistry last semester and got a D, and you're retaking it this semester and got an A, Unless you submit what is called a grade replacement application, both of those are factored into your UC GPA. So what we think you want to do, what you're probably doing, what you should be working with your advisor to do is submit a grade replacement application. And then on that CEAS transition applicant scan, the form you'll get 2 weeks after the deadline, you'll tell us, I am grade replacing chemistry this semester. I plan to submit an application. So when we go check things at the end of the semester, if your grade replacement hasn't gone through in the system, we'll actually calculate the higher grade into your GPA, knowing that that's something that you plan to do that will go into effect in your Catalyst account. So that's the overall GPA. If you want a new attempt at a course to replace the old grade in your overall UC GPA, you have to submit a grade replacement application. If your overall GPA is already above it and you don't want to waste your grade replacement hours, like your grade is still above the requirement with both grades, then in that scenario, technically you wouldn't have to submit it. So before I even go farther, like if you're grade replacing a course, please talk to your advisor. Your advisors are experts on this. You probably saw their faces up on the slide before, and we really want to make sure you understand how this is going to work for you. Now, the math and science GPA. That's one where we have a little bit more flexibility. If you remember when we looked at the math and science GPA website, that's where we saw the language about something called a best attempt. So even if you do not submit a grade replacement for chemistry, when we look at your math science GPA, we will automatically take the better grade for this calculation.
Great, and I think we've got one more question that I'm trying to make sure I understand. So please correct me if I am misinterpreting your question, Tarek. So if you got a higher grade in math, but dropped a grade like chemistry, like A with a B minus, can you still get in? And I'm trying to figure out if that means that you retook the class and got a lower grade the second time you took it, or if you dropped the class completely and didn't get a grade. So I'm not sure the best way to answer that one, but as long as you meet the minimum criteria for your classes for that major, you'll be part of the review, and then the best attempt of those grades would be what's calculated. Hopefully that answers your question.
I might piggyback on this just because this is my student, so I think I know what we're talking about. So if you took it in high school and you got an A, you come to UC, you retake it, you want to build a solid foundation, you listen to your advisor, whatever, and then you do worse. You get a B, you get a C. When we talk about your math and science GPA, we'll actually take that A in our calculations. Now, I want to make sure, just because I can't tell from this question, if you are enrolled in calculus and chemistry and then you withdraw from chemistry, you would no longer be meeting the minimum required courses for most of the majors. If that didn't cover it, just send me an email and you and I can be talking on it.
So we're going to kind of shift gears just a little bit and kind of talk about co-ops for a minute. So are there opportunities to work on campus for a co-op, things like research assistants? So I'm actually going to tackle that question. And so, yes, you can definitely get an on-campus co-op. Research is extremely viable, and a lot of students will opt into doing a research co-op. And I think that that's a really great opportunity for our students. So yes, you can definitely have an on-campus co-op in some sort of research lab or center, depending on where your interests are and what is available in the semester that you are co-oping. You do not have to be out in industry on your co-op semesters. And then continue to shift gears a little bit more. What is the difference between a major and a minor? Is that minor going to be equivalent to that major? Corinne, you are still muted.
Had to happen at least once. Okay, so really good question. Minors and majors are two kind of different things. So usually students are getting a minor as an accompaniment to their degree. So everything we have talked about today has been focused on our bachelor's, our majors in the College of Engineering and Applied Science. We do offer some minors. If you think that might be for you, I'm just going to say go ahead and talk to your advisor so they can kind of point you in the right direction. But no, I would not consider them equivalent. So I think a good example here would be like computer science. We offer both a Bachelor of Science degree in computer science, and then we also offer a minor for anyone who's not in that major. And even though that minor will give you some really, really good experiences, will certainly make your application more appealing, will show employers that you are capable and competent of using programming languages. I can assure you it is not given the same weight in a job application as a student who has a full-fledged degree. And because what makes a degree unique is that you produce knowledge at the end. We call it a senior design project. It's where you take everything you've learned into a culminating project to show that you know how to create knowledge in your new field. And that's really what makes a major so much different than a minor, is a minor is supposed to support that work. It is supposed to help you specialize. It is supposed to help you amplify it, but it is not your primary degree.
Great. So some clarification again on when you are taking classes and when should you be applying to be admitted. So if you are taking Calculus 1 during the spring semester, should you wait until the end of the spring semester to apply, or should you go ahead and apply once you are enrolled in the minimum required courses?
Excellent. So for this particular question, if you're taking Calculus 1 during the spring, you are going to be following the timeline I have highlighted here. So what this means is that your application will open up on November 2nd. So basically the day after the current application closes. Then anytime between November 2nd and March 1st, you're going to submit an application. So what I want to tell you is between January and March 1st, you're going to be enrolled in calculus and have no idea if you've passed it or not. But we're assuming the best case scenario. So for this particular student, you are going to submit an application by March 1st. We're going to hold it. And then when we get to May, we're going to check, make sure that you passed calculus so that you can start in your major effective summer semester in the month of May. For Travis, since you asked, can you let me know in the chat box if that really hammered home what your timeline looks like? And then Vicki, while he does that, I think you could ask another question as well.
Yeah, perfect. So far, I believe this is the last question. So how do you know when your grade is actually replaced? So you've completed the application, but how do you know once it's actually been processed?
Okay, so you do math. It's kind of like the short answer. You would see the new grade at the end of the semester reflected in your Catalyst GPA. But that doesn't really tell you much before the grade comes out. So this is where I want to tell you that like your advisors are magicians. They can find out so many things that you cannot. For example, if your grade replacement application has been submitted and it is pending. So I think, your advisor is probably Nancy, which means that you've got a really, really good one. Circle back to Nancy. She's going to kind of help you figure out where you sit with this grade replacement piece, figure out if you still need to submit an application, and that goes for everyone else. If you ever have confusion about this, go to your advisor, email our CAS advising account, because we want to make sure you really know how we're going to be reviewing your application if you're using grade replacement.
And the grade replacement too will also show up at the end of your degree audit once it is processed. So at usually it takes only a couple of days after the grades are posted, and you can go down and it'll say I'm trying to remember what it says, like repeated courses not counted or something like that, and it'll show that the grade is no longer impacting your GPA or anything like that. So great question. And then we do have a couple more coming in, so this is exciting. I'm glad you guys are asking your questions. Do students need to meet with their current advisor before applying to transition into our college or transition and change majors?
This probably depends way more on the roles for your current major. So if you are a student at UC Blue Ash or Claremont, if you're a student in FEP, if you're a student in civil engineering, if you're a student in exploratory, these are all majors that have mandatory advising for first year students. So odds are, yeah, you need to meet with your current advisor this semester. But what I want to tell you is that you don't need to do it before you apply. You need to meet with your advisor because it is required for your program and because you will be talking about your transition and the classes you'll take next semester. But if you can't get in to see your advisor until November 14th, you still need to go ahead and submit an application by November 1st. Kind of another end of this question that I want to address, which is you do not have to meet with anyone in CEAS before you submit an application. So you don't have to meet with me to go with any events. You can just, like, literally as I am speaking, submit that application and have it in, regardless of any of these meeting statuses.
Great. And do we hold applications? Let's say I applied for summer and I got in, but I'm really not ready to start quite yet, and I'd really rather start in the fall. Will you hold my application to the fall semester? Or do I need to reapply to be admitted again for the fall?
It's just like, okay, so this is a really great question. And I'm going to approach it from a couple of different angles. So remember I said we want you to apply in your earliest eligible semester. So if you're eligible to apply for summer, you're going to apply for summer regardless of whether or not you want to take summer classes, because you want a decision in May. If you wait and apply for fall, you're going to be waiting to hear a decision from us till August. So take the earlier opportunity, apply for summer, and then once you're accepted, you will go to your advisor and have a conversation to say, I do not plan on taking classes this semester. The reason this is important is once you are accepted to our program, you have to take classes within the next 3 semesters to save your spot. So that's why if you apply for summer, you don't have to take classes, but you are a CEAS student, and that is counting as one of your semesters. So if you truly, like, think you're going to be taking a year off and you need 3 full semesters, I'm just going to say, come talk to me, because that's a really specific, rare situation. But I can't think of any reason why a student would ever want to hold or delay their application, because we're never going to force you to take classes in the semester. We just want you to know that you're an engineer so you can stop worrying about it. I hope that makes sense. I'm trying to get at, like, the spirit of how we feel about those timelines.
Great. Awesome. And then what does the holistic review really look like, and what are some things that are considered in a holistic review?
So we consider this kind of internal information. I don't say that to be withholding, but we have very, very high academic standards for a reason. And when we go around and we meet with your future faculty members, the program directors for chemical engineering, architectural engineering, it is very, very important to them that you are striving to meet those academic standards. And if you fall right below them, then we are going to look at a myriad of things to see if you have the rigor, the commitment to community, kind of the diversity of experience and hard work that we're looking for. The best indicator that you are going to get of what your majors are considering for holistic review is actually when you fill out that transition application scan. You're going to get some hints. So if you choose aerospace and they want you to submit a statement about why you want aerospace and let them know if you've been working a part-time job, right? That means that they're kind of on the lookout for students who might be working to pay for school, and that could have impacted their GPA. That's an example. I kind of made it up. I'm not saying that that's not a thing that we don't care about, but all of that to say, like, we want you to focus on being a good student. We want you to focus on meeting the GPA. We want you to take chances for our most competitive programs, because we want diverse, dynamic, capable, hardworking students in them. And we also want you to think really strategically about using the second and choices if you don't meet those criteria.
Another question about the holistic review. Do you recommend filling out the holistic review if you meet the requirements for the GPA?
You're not actually going to know if you meet the requirements. So let's pay attention to this application round. Applications are due on November 1st. You'll receive the CEAS transition applicant scan by November 14th. And usually that due date is close to the end of the semester before grades are posted. So the general rule of thumb is everybody should submit their information for holistic review, because if you do at the end of the semester fall into whatever they're looking for right below the GPA and you've not provided that information, you're not going to be accepted for holistic review. So everyone should fill out the transition applicant scan and give us the information that we're looking for in the event that you end up there.
Great. Any other questions or clarifications that we can make for you guys while we're here?
So it doesn't look like we are seeing any other questions come in. So I am going to go ahead and say we are going to call it. If you have any other questions, I want to reassure you that you can follow up with me personally in the accounts you interacted with today or our CAS advising account. Sorry about that. Okay, so we are gonna, if you have any other questions that we didn't get to today, please just follow up with one of us over email. I'm happy to talk you through those, whatever you need. I wanna remind everybody to please fill out the evaluation so we know what you thought of today's session and if we can make any improvements for future semesters. More than anything, thank you for sticking around for almost an extra half hour. I think it really shows how committed you are to understanding this process and achieving your dream of becoming an engineer. So we're so excited to keep working with you, and we will be back in touch. You all have a really, really great day.